Welcome to We Are Old, Get Over It, the podcast where we celebrate the wisdom of age and maybe a little grumbling too. Our guests dive into topics that matter most to us, from navigating the digital world to embracing new adventures and the challenges that hold us back. Join me for about 30 minutes of insightful conversations, honest reflections, and a whole lot of get over it attitude. So let's get started. Okay, great. Give it an extra second or so Ted can get rid of me. All right. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks
Today
for having me.
Oh, I didn't even get to introduce you. You already said that. Okay, that's fine.
You can start over.
And what is your name? What is your name, young lady?
My name is August Lamm.
And why is it that you think I contacted you?
I mean, I think older people struggle with technology and very young people struggle with technology, and the people in between don't seem to talk about it that much unless they're worried about their children. But I guess there's an overlap there.
Okay. And the reason I contacted you is 2 months in a row, I found you once on The Guardian in January of this year, and you had a pamphlet that you put in The Guardian, which says you don't need a smartphone. And the whole article is, you don't need a smartphone, a practical personal guide to downgrading your device. I thought that was pretty interesting. Then, about a month later, you had an opinion piece in the New York Times. And that's when I decided to stalk you.
I'm very easy to stalk.
Yes, you are. And you answered me, which was really nice. So there are a lot of today we're going to be diving into potentially a controversial topic, whether smartphones are truly essential for seniors. And we can explore the alternatives and consider if it's simply technology that might be beneficial out there that can help people. So at this point, after I gave you that great introduction, and I thank you for being here with me today, I'm going to let you go ahead and make your presentation, and I'll just kind of follow along and ask a couple of questions as we go, okay?
Yeah, I don't think that smartphones are essential for seniors. I don't even think it's a controversial topic. I just think the answer is no. They don't need them. I think there are a few people in the world that have legitimate reasons, not for having smartphones, but for having a difficult time getting rid of their smartphones. You know, people who are really locked in because of their jobs, and they might lose clients, lose income, lose momentum if they don't have their phone on them. They might honestly just lose their jobs because it's so expected. So those people, yes, like I can empathize with their struggle to get rid of their smartphones. With older people, you know, especially retired people, people who spent the majority of their lives without smartphones, I think that's kind of the easiest demographic in terms of getting people to get rid of these devices. Like that should be simplest for those people who know how to live without these things and have these innate skills of orienting themselves. That, you know, they're probably more familiar with their neighborhoods than, for example, somebody in their 20s who's just moved to a new city. Older people are generally more settled. They have communities that aren't fluctuating quite as much. They're not like entering new jobs and new social circles all the time. And so they don't need these devices. I guess probably the way that older people use them the most, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, but I would say it's FaceTiming their relatives is pretty common, you know, like having grandma FaceTime the new baby or something like that. But in my opinion, I mean, phone calls exist. Phone calls are great. Also, you can do a video call on your laptop. You don't need your phone for that. And also, I don't think the baby should be holding the iPhone and FaceTiming grandma. I don't think that's good for the baby. So I think that is the main use for it for older people. Maybe taking photos, but you know, cameras exist. We all know that. So I'm curious what you think is keeping older people locked in unless it's just their kids saying, mom, you need to have this device, or the cell phone company saying, this is the standard device, this is the one we're going to give you. What do you think it is?
Well, first of all, to answer your question, you weren't around when there weren't devices, when there wasn't internet, and seniors really were. So we dealt with all kinds of phones on the walls and long cords, and sometimes there were party lines where you'd have to wait to get on the phone, and that really kind of dates me. But in certain times in the United States, that's what you had to do. You had to wait for somebody else to get off the phone, and you could make a call. Uh, so the technology has grown very quickly in the time that we've been around. So we've had to adapt to a lot of different things. And I think that we, as seniors, uh, have more difficulty using smartphones than you do because you grow up with it. And people of your age, I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 29.
29. Okay. People of your age have grown up with phones in their hands. And I just think it's very interesting that you decided that having that technology available to you isn't as important as the way you communicate with people you know or care about.
Yeah, I mean, it, smartphones might be more difficult for seniors to use on a tactile and technological level, but I find them very difficult to use on a psychological level. Like I have always found it a very anxiety inducing thing. Even when I was addicted, I mean, especially when I was addicted to my smartphone, I just found it to be a source of great stress in my life. And I think for older people, often it might be confusing, might be complicated to use, but there isn't usually that level of addiction. There's definitely exceptions, like older people who are addicted to Facebook and scrolling and news and things like that, because it's not as embedded in their lives and it hasn't been for as large a percentage of their lives. It feels a little less damaging. Now, I still don't think people should have it. And in fact, the people that it's least damaging for, that the demographics that are least addicted, like I said earlier, should have the easiest time getting off these devices. So it's more difficult for people of my age who, like you said, grew up with these devices and don't know another way to live. And that's what I'm really trying to teach people. And that's the perspective that I'm coming from is I also grew up having a laptop and then having a smartphone, and I figured out a way to live without it. And you can too. But I don't really need to say that to older people. I think what I need to convince older people of is even if it feels like it's not that big of a deal for you, it's still taking away from your life. And you could still just be happier and more present without one.
Okay. And what are the challenges that you feel uh, older people do have using smartphones?
Well, I know that my father really struggled with the typing element of it, the fact that there weren't physical keys, so you can it if especially if your eyesight isn't that great, you can't feel your way around it. You're kind of hitting all these buttons. And in the old phone keypads used to be just a row of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we've got this entire keyboard. And so it's very easy to slip up and get confused and hit the wrong button and start a call, and it just from your finger sliding around the screen. So I think that part is especially difficult for older people.
Yeah, because I make typos all the time on my phone because my
Yeah.
fingers are not used to. I'm not using my two thumbs. I'm just pointing at the various keys, and I find I make mistakes. And I said, "Well, I know how to spell that. How come it came out wrong?" And so there's frustration involved with it, and uh, there are other options out there for people. Uh, I had a discussion earlier with someone from an organization called Cyber Seniors, where they do mentoring, and I had asked that lady what she would recommend, and she had said that some seniors shouldn't even be using cell phones for communicating and getting on the internet because it's too hard for them to handle. It's easier for them to have a larger uh, item. It doesn't have to be a computer, it could be something in between so they can communicate better. Uh, but let's talk about basic phones and if they're out there for people and where they can get them.
Yeah, most cell providers do offer at least one flip phone, which looks like the kind that you'd get maybe around the year 2007 or something, So a flip phone that can take medium quality photos that aren't really good for much, but you can take a photo and text it to somebody if you really want. A lot of them do have Google Maps if that is something that you are concerned about and you need to be able to type in a destination, especially if you're traveling. Some people like that. So those are very handy. And I think if you look at the majority of cases of people of all ages, all their needs would be met by that. And they wouldn't really have any complaints if they were able to just mentally get to that point where they would switch. So those are available. You can get them at any electronics store like Best Buy. You can probably get them from AT&T.
Yeah, I actually have
And
a list which I'm gonna go over, I think,
oh, that's
so
great.
that because I did some research on it. I went to a couple of the cellular companies and got their information. And then I went online and I found quite a few uh, devices that don't have to be flip phones. Uh, and because of that, they could be slightly larger and have bigger buttons. And they have buttons actually that are like 8 buttons that people can hit right away if they need to. And it really takes them to where they want to be. So there are companies out there that are making an effort to make it easier for seniors who I think have the hardest time with the all the changes in a smartphone. We're constantly getting updates. Uh, we were doing something for a while a certain way, and all of a sudden the technology changes and it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, you had mentioned to me that that you're getting ready to give up your computer. How is that
Yes.
happening?
Well, I've spent the past month getting ready to do this, so I've gotten all of my data onto a hard drive, and then I'll get a backup hard drive just to make sure. But it's all my photos. I'm getting it all off of the cloud and putting all my documents because I'm a writer. So putting everything, all my works in progress on a drive, also printing everything out as another backup. No, not all the photos. I've got about 60,000 photos because that's what happens when you when you're given a smartphone as a child. So I'm just printing out all of my Word documents. And yeah, and then so I'm selling my computer in 4 days. And then after that, I will switch to just going to the library to use the computer there to check my email and to type up any drafts of pieces that I'm working on. And I won't be able to do Zoom calls anymore, but you can actually call into a Zoom call from your cell phone. There's a phone number there. So if I do have to do some work meeting with people in a different country, I'll just call in. And yeah, I have no idea how it'll affect me. I'm really curious, so
Well,
that's why I'm doing it.
it'll be a good article for you to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I've already got a few articles lined up.
Uh, One of the things I wanted to mention that tablets are a good alternative to having a smartphone. Do you agree with that, or you don't agree with that?
I just don't think that people need these things. I think, especially with seniors, it's just like you don't need all these features. What are you using it for? It's not like you're drawing a graphic novel or editing a movie. Why do you need this extremely high tech device? All you're really doing is reading some news or keeping in touch with people, things that you can do without these things. So why introduce them when they're so harmful and they take so much of your time and energy and data, when they're bad for the world, when these corporations are profiting off of you? What, like, it doesn't balance out to benefiting you.
What would what would you uh, recommend for people who need an alternative to smartphones? We talked a little bit about uh, the the phones that you could get from consumer cellular, or let's say T-Mobile, or uh, Lively, I believe, is another company that offers phones. Uh, the question I have is, how does a, a child, a grown child of a senior, help to make the assessment of what's best for their parent, their older parent, so that they still feel that they can have a connection, but yet don't feel bombarded by all the technology?
Well, I think it's a matter of asking what this person needs. You know, what are they using this device for? What do they need from their life? How do they want to stay in touch? And I would wager that the majority of older people just really need a phone call, maybe an occasional video call on a laptop that somebody else can set up for them. But, you know, you just want to be in touch, and texting isn't really being in touch. And a lot of older people struggle with texting, and younger people struggle with calling. But, like, you can text for months and you don't really feel connected to another person. And you call for 1 minute and you feel connected to them. So I think the onus is also on young people to really pick up the phone and to just kind of overcome their barriers to that. You know, I really struggled with it with my father, with picking up the phone, and I would text him knowing that he couldn't really read the text or reply to the text, and I would email him and say, you know, oh, I can't call, I'm really busy. And it wasn't exactly true. I could have called. I just wasn't really comfortable with it. So that's something we have to get over.
Okay. And what was the determining factor for you to raise the flag for this, and and try to report on this uh, technology, and what is it that made you decide to do this in your life?
Well, I was working online as I was selling my art, and I was doing some, I guess you'd call it influencing, which is just having a lot of followers and talking about products to them. And I wasn't comfortable with it. It was taking up a lot of my time. It was very stressful. I had to keep people's attention in order to make money, and that didn't feel sustainable over time. And it meant that I had to be constantly online and be constantly checking in. And even if that wasn't true, I felt like it was true. And so I kept looking at my phone, bringing it everywhere, capturing my life in a way that made it really difficult to appreciate my life. So I reached a breaking point where I didn't want to be attached to it anymore. And I knew that that for me was a radical decision, because it's the equivalent of saying, you know, I'm not going to go to the office anymore. It's like, okay, well then you probably need to find another job. So that started a whole journey for me. And I didn't start speaking out about it until a few years after I switched to a dumb phone, because I didn't realize that other people were ready to hear about it, or wanted information on it. I thought it was just kind of my own little project.
Do you object to the term dumb phone?
No, not at all. I think some people find it offensive for different reasons. I know I've been hearing a lot of keypad phone recently, or people say flip phone or brick phone. I don't think there's a great word for it. I don't think anyone has come up with it. I don't think they will come up with it, but whatever. We're all talking about the same thing.
That's true. That's true. Is there anything else that you would like to say about the subject? Because I may be the last person in media that you speak to on a call where we can actually see each other.
That is true. No, I think I'll be doing a lot more writing and probably
That's
less
good.
less podcasting in the future.
There you go. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and good luck to you in the next 4 days. But I do have your phone number, so you and I can touch base once in a while. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. August, thank you very much
Yeah,
for
thank you.
taking the time, and for filling me in on something that I wasn't really aware of that people were doing. But I wish you the best. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Have a great day now. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You too.
I had a rather brief conversation uh, with August, and I wanted to try to give you some information about other phones that are available in the United States. And these are all available. All I did was a search on Google. You know what that is. And I just searched phones for seniors. And among them are Lively Jitterbug. They have a number of phones with very large keys, which would be beneficial to seniors. And they enable you to go to voicemail, to get your messages, to get help if you need it. Consumer Cellular has flip phones. Uh, there are other phones out there. Raz is another company that sells phones for seniors. So if you have any questions about finding a phone and you want to get any help, please send me an email and I'll be happy to look up the details for you and get you some information on other phones that are available. And you can reach me at weareoldpodcast@gmail.com. And I thank you for listening to the brief conversation I had today with August. Okay. Bye-bye now. We'll see you next time. Oh, I forgot one thing. Don't go. Don't go. I forgot my quote. My quote for the day is another one from Unknown. And here it is. The older you get, the more you appreciate the simple things in life. And that's a very true statement. Until next time, bye. And that concludes this episode of We Are Old, Get Over It. Thanks for joining me. I hope you found our conversation both insightful and entertaining. Remember, age is a journey, not a destination. So embrace the wrinkles, the forgetfulness, and the occasional tech frustrations with a good dose of get over it attitude. Until next time, keep laughing, keep learning, and keep getting over it. Ken out.